I think it's Peter.
Marina?
Goeiemôre. Nico.
Yes.
Ja,
Waar is jy vanaf?
Ek is van Aubrey Erasmus het my gevra om vanmôre in te sit. Hy het vir my die link deurgestuur. Ek werk saam met hom. Hy kan ongelukkig nou vandag nie insit nie. Hy het vir my gevra ek moet asseblief net insit saam met julle. As dit reg is met julle.
Yeah, dis doodreg. Nee, is geregtig want it's not we will want you to sit in always. Now he phoned this morning and said his mom is quite sick. He has to rush her to hospital. So jy moet dan eintlik ons moet jou details kry dat jy Anneke jou op hoogte want jy's blykbaar die tegniese persoon.
Yeah, I'm the quality manager at Olifantsfontein within the whole group, but my office is situated at Olifantsfontein, the old AfriSam premises that we've bought over. So
okay.
Yes,
you must on the chat put your email address there so Anneke picks it up and then put you on the list so you can get all the stuff. There's a lot of stuff going out. Barry does a huge amount of work for ASPASA. There's reports that go out and so forth. You need those reports because you need to see what's happening at all these places he's involved in. So
yeah, thank you for the privilege of joining you this morning. I'm here to learn, and as I said, Aubrey has asked me just to sit in on his behalf this morning.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Welcome.
Okay.
All the
Thank
other
you.
people, all the other people, welcome. I don't waste time anymore with this introduction. I think this is a technical meeting on ASPASA, number one. Number two is it's fully recorded. So what Anneke does after this is that she puts it on, all our stuff is on YouTube. So you go to YouTube, you Google YouTube, you type in ASPASA, and you get to all our meetings are recorded. So anybody who wants to use it again internally or, to check what was said or so forth with pleasure. That's why we do this, because it's a nice way. We don't write those minutes anymore. We sit for days and writing minutes and sending papers out. Nobody bloody reads the stuff. So the recording is the minutes because it's recorded. So Anneke normally sends it out. Most probably this will go out by at least Friday, if not quicker. And if there's any documentation, she attaches that to the link, and she sends out the link and she attaches the paper Barry's slides. So that's how we communicate these days. We're not going to write pages and pages and pages. Number one. Number two is I have to write these things, and half the time when Barry talks, and I don't know what he's talking about. So that's my problem. He's on cloud 9, and I'm still not even on the cloud. So that's the other thing. And then, of course, as you all know, there's no competition breaking here. We ASPASA is proud that we've never been. Yes, the competition board has tried to catch us, but we don't allow that. So we don't compete. We don't collude. But we've got specific subject matters and technical and laboratory testing and stuff like that. It's not a secret thing that we do. So yeah, so I see the people are still coming in. Well, what I'm going to do, so we don't waste time, because you all got jobs to go and do, is it's 11 minutes past 9. I'm going to hand over to our technical person, who's Barry Pierce. He doesn't work for ASPASA. He's an ASPASA consultant, and we operate with consultants. And these are we most probably got the best specialists between technical laboratory, Barry Pierce, and on the explosive side we've got Corey, who's you can't believe it. I mean, what he's forgotten, the DMR and SAPs haven't even heard about. Remember, that's a very important thing these days. So we do that audit too, and then Barry also does an audit. So yeah, we don't only do health and safety audits and environmental audits. We do a whole lot of others too. And I call it audits, but audit is maybe the wrong word. It's legal compliance. It's bettering your business and stuff like that. So please, when you get back to your companies, just think about those things. And this subject matter is something that's going to affect our pockets, because we need to prove that we supply proper quality to the industry. So we can take the people who don't use our members, we can take them on at some stage, but we first have to get our house in order, so we can say, okay, well, when we produce aggregate, here is the standard, and we can prove it. But you're using borrow pit down the road. So let's show us what you're using, and that's the why we're pushing this thing. So we've got ammunition in our pocket, and that's the thing. So we can better our businesses, and then go out and say, don't use these fly-by-night people because their standards are not up to standards. So that's what we do trying to do here. So Barry, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand over to you, then I'll go off the air. Welcome everybody.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Nico, and welcome to you all. Thanks very much for your time. The meetings that we hold here are normally not overly long. We try to keep it as short and as succinct as possible. There are minutes that were produced from the last one, but I'm very glad to hear that Nico's now said that I don't have to actually go and re-listen to everything that I've said and then type it up into a format of minutes. So I'm just wondering then, Nico, with regards to the approval of the previous minutes, etc.
Barry, we've lost sound with you.
Sorry, Barry.
Am I back?
Yep, thank
Hello.
you.
Yes, you're back.
I'm back. All right. Sorry. I'm in the deepest Eastern Cape, so my reception might not be the best. Would I then just look at revising the comments on the minutes and the agenda to approval of the previous recorded minutes? Nico, Annika, would that be fine?
No, I think that's fine, Barry.
Okay. Are there any comments on the previous? There was a set of minutes that was put out for that, but are there any comments or input with regards to that, or are we happy to actually approve that for record purposes?
I think what happens is you tend to cover the same subject over, so
Yeah.
I think specifically that we had a vote on or a review decision. So I think we'll carry on.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Just with regards to the item numbers, then, if you're looking at, there is still the outstanding issue with regards to my voting membership on SABS, representing ASPASA. It's something that I'm going to have to take up directly with them, Nico. I'm still not on as an ASPASA member for voting, and I'm not sure if they maybe have an issue with the fact that I am also representing SAF there. So it's the same person representing two different organizations. But I will get hold of them and just see what the holdup is in getting that approved, because you're sitting there as the representative, and I think it would be worthwhile to have ASPASA's name down there as one of the contributors towards the writing of the methods. So that is my action to take up there. The next point is the discussion on the grading envelopes for the GR materials. That was covered in a fair bit of detail at the last meeting, where I'd been involved in a dispute between gradings being done on AG, which is the aggregate grading as against the granular grading, and I think that to a large degree was resolved. Just understand as well that the Colto document now, in most cases, is no longer applicable for the contracts that were put out from April 2021. So most of the contracts, besides those that are going on for a longer period than 2 years, will be shifting across into the Colto. And the Colto document, as I said, will be in a draft format for a period of 2 years. That was from April last year. And the grading envelopes, etc., that are in there are all referring now to the new SANS 3001 test methods. And my one concern is in a lot of the discussions that I have with the quarry members is they still look to Colto. They are still on TMH1, with a 13.2 is against a 14 mil, or a 6.7 is against a 7.1. 19 is against 20, and your control techniques then, or the control mechanisms that you're using to approve your material, is not going to be what's going to be looked at by the actual supplier. So it's still something that just niggles in the back of my mind, that concerns me. And until I get a take up on actually being able to do the audits within the various facilities, it's going to continue like that, and it's going to continue to remain a little bit of an issue. So I would again urge all the participants that are sitting in on this meeting, I am in discussion with some of the larger organizations to start a process within their organization on doing the audits. Now, if I can maybe give a little bit of background, previously it started off with myself and Frans Bieneke. Frans Bieneke unfortunately passed away in the early part of last year, and now it's literally just myself. So it is unlikely that I'm going to get to every single facility every single year. So the idea would be I would possibly look at getting to the small organizations maybe once every 2 years, and within the larger organizations, I'll possibly only get to each facility once every 3 years. And the idea would be within those larger organizations, it would be beneficial to have some form of communication on a technical front to disseminate that information as to what has been found at the various facilities so that they can actually be brought in line almost before the audit is actually held. That they're not an undue amount of findings actually found at the various facilities. Now, as Nico said, although we call it an audit, the formal structure is that of an audit, but it really is the dissemination of information through myself with all the involvement that I've got within industry. I sit on the SBS board, or not the board, but the technical committee for the writing of the standards. So I can look at what you're doing, I can look at your equipment, I can give you advice on what's going to be changing into the near future. So it's more in the form of a informal training scenario to ensure that what you are doing to approve your material that you're producing is actually being done correctly. So although it carries the title of an audit, it is really maybe a structured form of training and the dissemination of the latest information on what's actually going on. So that is really the audit side of things. I said I'm trying to get it off the ground with a couple of the larger organizations. I will obviously start in the Western Cape with some of the organizations there that are slightly smaller as well, the one-off quarries. Excuse me. But it's a hard slog to try and push the guys over the edge to actually put the hand in their pocket, spend the money that's required for that audit, and then my feeling would be that once that audit has happened the first time around, the guys' eyes will be open to what's actually going on and the information that maybe hasn't disseminated all the way down to the physical laboratory environment. And then they can start actually garnering the benefit of the information that is actually that they're missing in a lot of the cases, which is concerning to me. And remember as well, one of my major drives is to improve the overall image of ASPASA members and ASPASA as an organization with regards to the fact that the organizations and their various quarry facilities are producing quality product that competes with results that are coming out of the commercial facility, because those are the guys that are going to finally approve your materials. I think that in a nutshell is what we're looking at from the quality audit perspective. I'm not sure if there's anybody who would like to raise any queries or questions. For those folk who maybe haven't sat in on one of the technical committees before, if there's any additional information you might be wanting, you can either get hold of me directly or just pop your hand up and I can see if there's maybe something I can add to it for better clarity. Any questions? Okay, all quiet on the Western front there. All right. The next item is on the material tester side with the certification of ISO 17024. This morning, I've just finalized the last bits on getting that system up and running. There is a MAT Civils Committee meeting, which is run through the NLA, which I also chair, happening on the 22nd. That's this coming coming Tuesday, where the 17024 will finally be basically open for registration. It possibly would be a two-step process for most of the quarrying fraternities, and the first one would be to provide some form of training, either in the form of the videos and some form of on-site training, which could to a certain degree, be garnered out of the audit. So if you use the audit as an audit on your facility, but at the same time, because you run a relatively small number of tests within your testing facilities, I could almost at the same time be checking on the person's competency with regards to what they're actually doing on a wash grading, a dry grading, aggregates, granular, and then maybe the flakiness, and give you sufficient input to say, listen, these guys are ready, they can actually be registered with ISO 17084 and be deemed competent in that regard. So it just gives you another arrow in your quiver of what you do from a quality perspective to say that my guys are certified with an independent source of deeming competent. So something to have a look at. As I said, the other item is there as her videos. I've presented on this on a number of occasions. They are being utilized on all the SANRAL websites. I've had relatively positive feedback from it with regards to what they physically see on the test methods. The other very good point, as far as I'm concerned, with regards to the videos, are that as changes come up with the methods, we will shoot the revision and we will actually have it uploaded online. So the next time you log on to watch the video, it would actually show you the new revised method with a means of actually identifying the fact that these aspects of the test method have now been revised, so that you're alerted to the fact that, one, the test method has been changed and you need to purchase a new one. And the second thing is it will show you what those revisions are, and you can start actually implementing that immediately as well. So around the 17085, the certification of your staff / training of your staff, as well as the videos, that's an overall package that is available now for the deeming competent of your actual staff members themselves. Are there any questions or queries with regards to that particular setup, either the 17084 and then also the BASA videos? If I remember correctly, there was a query last time around as to whether there wouldn't be hard copies provided. And the main reason why the hard copies aren't provided is because with the updates, we will be providing you with the latest copy of what is actually being required. So it's not in a hard copy format. It's actually in you log on to the web and you physically can sit down and watch those videos you subscribe for the entire year. If anybody is interested there, please just drop us a line. I can send you the contacts, etc. that's required for that, and we can set you up with those videos. None of the Quarry members have currently utilized it, but I know it is on a number of the SANRAL websites where I'm providing training. And the beauty is the guys can sit down and watch the video, so I don't have to run through the process of what they need to do. They've already seen that. Now I basically just go into the laboratory and I watch what they physically do and raise queries around what they are physically doing, because the practical aspect of it has already been covered, or the theoretical content has already been covered. So it saves time on my actual contact with regards to that. Marina, you got a question?
Hi, Barry, thank you. Can I contact the ASPASA office with regards to the access to the videos and the costs involved?
Yes, absolutely. Annika, there was the presentation I did at the last training, which gives you the outline of what tests are covered, as well as the costs of it on an annual basis. And you can either look at it in the form of aggregates and granular, or concrete, or a combination of the two. Speak under correction, I think it's 15,000 Rand for granular aggregates and concrete, which works out at just over 1,000 Rand per month for that set per site that you have.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. And if you've got any queries, please just give us a shout. My contact details you can get either from ASPASA, or they'll pop up at some point, I think, during the presentation. Annika?
Yes, I just want to ask Marina if she can just send me an email to office@aspasa.coza, then I will send her everything she needs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect. Annika, if you could maybe just copy me into that as well, that I can then follow up with Marina as well.
Okay, sure.
Super. Thanks very much. All right, so that handles the training side of the testers within your facilities. The next thing is the quarterly reports. Those reports go out annually, twice a year. It's coming up to the first one that is needing to go out. So just watch that space. It will be sent. It's a relatively extensive bit of paperwork. It covers a lot of the stuff that I cover in this technical meeting, plus additional bits of information in maybe a little bit more detail. So just watch that space. I cover what I need to, I think, just from a highlighting perspective in this meeting. And then all the details lie in that particular technical report. With regards to the documentation, the SANS 3001 test series, GR for granular, AG for aggregates, and CO for concrete. There are 2 test methods that have been changed during 2022, and that is the dry grading and the wash grading for GR. Now, what I'd like to do is I just want to quickly share with you how to find these documents. Let me just see if I can log onto that so you can see. All right, can you guys actually see that? The SEDS web. Okay, good. So if you want to look for a test method, you go and type in SANS for the test series 3001. If you're looking for granular, because we know that's the one that's actually been done, and then 2022, it will give you all the test methods for the GR series under 3001 that have been updated in 2022. So it's a quick way of running a check on the test methods themselves that have been updated. If you change the GR to AG, it will give you the aggregates, and if you do the CO, it will give you the concrete. So you can see over here, it comes up. Here is your GR2 that's been revised. Here's the GR1 that's been revised. All the other ones here that are GR are not applicable to you guys on the quarrying fraternity because they're all relatively complex tests. The next thing that you can then do is you can go into the preview screen, and it'll show you the actual test method. It'll tell you which edition it is. You can see it's the first edition, and there have been 3 revisions that have taken place. And then if you slide down on the right-hand side over here to the 3rd page, it unfortunately doesn't give you the entire test method, but you can see over here that the Amendment 3 gives you an introduction change. There are definitions. There is a renumbering to bring it in line with the changes to the apparatus, the procedures, the calculations, and then the test report. So there's quite an extensive change that has happened there. So you would need to buy that method, get it into your lab, have a look at what those changes are. We are going to need to reshoot this as well, and then actually add those changes into what's being looked at on the videos themselves. On the dry grading side of things, I think the revisions are slightly less extensive. You can see that this is the 2nd edition that has changed over there, although it's still the first draft or the first document that's been sent out in this regard. The introduction has been changed, the scope has been changed, and I think the scope now refers to the fact that you can use this dry grading for both granulars and aggregate test methods. There's some of the definitions have been changed, and there is a change to the apparatus and of the preparations. The reference standards, we're not too worried about it. You can see over here it says the test method is used to determine particle size distribution of materials proposed for use in gravels and sand. The results are used as a rapid determination during construction control processing, and particularly during the crushing. So it's a test method that is very applicable to the quarry fraternity because you would use this for your process control. The method is also applicable to sand with little or no cohesive characteristics, and then also aggregates with no fines. Okay, so it is applicable to both AG and GR materials. Okay. The change in the introduction to all the test methods removes the clause that states that if you have got TMH1 testing apparatus, that it is still applicable until it wears out. That clause has now been removed. So all the old sieve sizes, all the old references to TMH1 are no longer going to become applicable. That's going to happen in every single test method. So there's no more reference to TMH1, and there's no more reference to the CETA qualification. So those have both been removed in the introduction. Okay, so if you need to get onto it, just type in SABS space web store, and it'll take you to where I started off, where you can actually type in the actual test method you're looking for over there. Just remember the layout, SANS space 3001, and then, as I said, whichever method you are actually looking for, you can be specific in the test method by giving it a number, and that would be AG-1. And you can see over here in the revisions. Okay, sorry, it's still spooling over there. I don't think there are any revisions to the AG methods on 2022, so it's going to show everything that was revised in 2021 and 2019. Okay, any questions on that with regards to the actual test methods themselves? Okay, so you can see that there are no changes on the AG. It's only AS, which is asphalt, and the GR, which is the granular, that is applicable to you guys. Any questions on where we're at with the SABS test methods? Okay, I'm just having a look here. I can see Pele has asked a question. So that is so line, apologies, we covered this already. Is there any intention of auditing commercial laboratories? Can a regional proficiency exercise between commercial laboratories and suppliers be set up? Absolutely. Okay, so is there auditing that is happening in the commercial facilities? Absolutely. In fact, the majority of the commercial facilities are or should be 17025 accredited. So there is an audit system that is in place there. I do some of the SANAS audits, and I do some of what I call readiness for SANAS audits for some of the facilities as well. So yes, that is in place. With regard to the regional proficiency exercises, this is something that I'm trying to push as well, and it's something that I would be able to push a lot easier during an audit. So the idea would be on the smaller organizations, I would like to have the smaller organizations join the National Proficiency Testing Scheme, which is underway with the NLA. It's one of the functions that I run. I do the setting up of all the samples and the analysis of it, the statistical analysis, and the provision of the reports. When it comes to the larger organizations, and I talk about the larger organizations, that would be your AfriMats, your AfriSans, Romex, and Lafarge. What I would look at there is, because the organizations are quite large, I would not expect all of those quarries to join the PT scheme, because it would become quite onerous to prepare those samples. So the idea would be maybe regionally in 2 or 3 of the major centers, you would have one of those facilities within your organization partake in the national PT scheme. That will give you a reference point as to how well you are functioning. And then internally, you can then set up an ILC with your other facilities using your reference point as a governing factor as to whether the remaining facilities are actually testing acceptably or not, and they're getting comparable results. In that type of setup, I would be happy to come in and assist you in setting that type of thing up, that you get the right analysis done and you get the information that is actually beneficial to you. So maybe if you would like to give me a call, we can have an offline discussion outside of this meeting with regards to how we can actually put that together so that it can work within your organization, if that would be acceptable.
Thanks, Barry. I'll take you up on that offer.
Excellent. Can I just ask, which organization are you representing?
AfriSam.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, AfriSam. I'm just trying to think now. I have had discussions with of the people at AfriSam, but yes, maybe a detailed discussion with you would give you a lot more input on exactly what can be done and how it can be run, and I'd be happy to help you out with setting that up. All right, so that's a 3001 setup. So there are 2 test methods that we need to have a look at and get that off the ground. We just need to action those 2 and make sure that you have got the latest test methods. With regards to SANS 1083, remember the revision that's underway at the moment is going to actually be a revision for all aggregate samples. It's not just going to be for concrete anymore. So 1083 is underway. There's a lot of work happening in the background, but currently the document has not been published as a draft as yet. But it's something that certainly needs to be looked at going forward. And hopefully during the course of 2022, hopefully closer to the early part of it, there will be a draft document that is out for comment. It will relate directly back to the new COTO document, so all the specifications and the gradings that are given in the COTO document will be duplicated in 1083. I think the only materials that are being looked at in a fair bit of detail at the moment would be on the asphalt side of things with regards to the finer aggregates and the requirements for that. I think in the majority of cases, the concrete and the granular material is largely not going to be something that's under too much of a dispute and discussion. With regards to sampling, TMH5 has been replaced with Manual 37, which is on the Sabita website. So if you go into the Sabita website under the documentation, you search for Manual 37. It is Manual 37/TMH5. It has been revised. There are revisions to the way stockpiles are tested. So very applicable, particularly on your smaller stockpile sizes for the quarry fraternities that have a look at how that is being proposed, that they start implementing those changes. There are also changes on the makeup of the riffler itself with a little bit more detail on ensuring that that riffler splits your sample as accurately as possible. So something to have a look at in that regard. The last document there is the COTO document, so that you'll see your specification. That is in line, it is applicable. It's not a draft document that isn't going to be used or shouldn't be used. It's in use as a draft document for a period of 2 years before it becomes a national specification. So don't look at it and saying it's not applicable at the moment. That document is applicable. You can also download that from the National Road Agency website. So you can go onto the SANROL website, and it is available under their documentation there. So if you type in COTO, you will actually you'll be taken to that document. It's quite extensive. There is training being provided as well on that COTO document at the moment through staff. I would strongly advise everybody who is in the quarrying fraternity to sit in on the Chapter 4 and 5, which is supply and construction of material. Chapter 4 is what is more applicable to the COTO member, to the ASPASA members. Chapter 5 is more applicable to the contractors. But I think the important aspect around that Chapter 4 is there is pre-approval of material before it's delivered to site. So one of the other major drivers that I've got is to try and assist ASPASA to get to a point where the exclusion clauses, which causes a little bit of friction of the people that you're supplying to, can be done away with if this Chapter 4 is correctly implemented. So it's a process of getting all the ASPASA members on board, making sure that they understand how this needs to be done, and then making sure that it's implemented on the actual contracts correctly as well. So it also involves getting the engineers on board, that they understand what needs to be done to make sure that it's actually being done correctly. And I think that's going to go a very long way in actually removing the exclusion clause. And that in itself will be a huge marketing scenario from ASPASA's side to say that this is how far we've come, that we are now actually able to drop it because the specs are now actually talking to what we need. We are protected, and then the contractor will be protected as well for the work that they are doing. So I think that is something that we need to have a look at quite strongly in 2022 as well, along with the audits and the training of the testers. Any comments or points that are on required with regards to where we are COTO-wise, or any other of the documents themselves? Alrighty, all quiet on that side. With regards to agenda items being added, there's nothing that needs to be added unless there are general points, but I'll open that up to the floor in a short minute. With regards to visits to and talks at technicons and universities and other commercial facilities, yes, that's been an item that's been hanging around for a while because of COVID. We haven't been able to get in there. Engineering 4.0, which is the new reference/training facility up in Proefplaas at the University of Pretoria. It's a partnership between Sanral, University of Pretoria, and CSIR. That is now getting to a point where it's starting to function as a laboratory, and I think we can start having a look at maybe getting into that facility. It's really impressive. I've been up there at the end of last month, and I'm going to be up there week after next. And I think it's something that we can really start having a look at to get an idea of what a laboratory testing facility should actually look like. They have certainly spent a good bit of bucks on getting it up and running. It has got a very nice training facility with an auditorium. There is a reference laboratory and there is a training laboratory. And in the training laboratory, they've got 20 stations set up that you can do gradings with 20 people on granular aggregate. There's also 20 sets of equipment you can set up for bitumen testing, for asphalt testing, and also concrete testing. So really impressive, and I think it might be worthwhile to have a look at an on-site meeting up that way, maybe later in the year at one of the technical committee meetings. The other dates for the meetings, they have been circulated by ASPASA already, and I will include conferences and other industry forums. I know Nico does publicize those on a regular basis. I know there is one for Road Pavements Forum. I think it is coming up in May, but we will circulate that in the normal manner with the circulars that go out through ASPASA. From my side, that pretty much does everything on the agenda that I need to have covered. I'm not sure if there's anything under general from any of the members on the floor, that's the virtual floor, that they would like to actually ask of me before we wrap up this particular meeting. Is there anything that anybody else would like to ask, an additional item they'd like to have looked into or researched that we can give a broad-based response to at the next meeting? The floor is open.
Nothing from my side. I think everything has been covered. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Suzanne. I will definitely look at making a turn down your side when I'm spending more than one day in Cape Town over a weekend, and just have a chat and see where we're at with audits on your side.
Sure. Just let me know when you're here.
Excellent. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks, Barry. I think that was good. That was great. It's short and sweet, and but I think the way we work with us, anybody got technical problems, quality problems, laboratory, just send us a mail. You all know our mail. Pass it on to Barry and efficiently, so forth. So yeah, I think it gives us a big service. It's a great service that we've got. The problem is not everybody's understanding it, so that's why it's a bit of
yeah, Nick, I think the understanding will become a lot more apparent when I get into the site. So I often find when you talk at meetings like this, which is an overview and relatively superficial, it's only when you really get into the site, you start physically looking at what's happening there, that you can really start making a difference. And that is my frustration at the moment. It's not getting into the facilities and actually talking to it, because when you talk to the guys that are physically doing the work in the laboratories and with the testing, etc., and making the decisions on what's going on with the individual quarry managers, that you only really start getting a sense of what's going on. So yes, it is a little bit frustrating from my side at the moment, but there are queries coming through. But I think once we start the ball rolling and we get a couple of the audits off the ground, and I asked the people who've been audited to give the feedback on this type of platform, I think it will start picking up a little bit of momentum, and we'll be able to get this thing rolling properly.
Thanks, Barry. I think you've captured it. Yeah, let's carry on. It happens with all the stuff like that. The explosive one also, until the guy gets there and he shows them that their paperwork is wrong, then everybody wakes up. But that's how it works. I mean,
good, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm like a staffy. I don't let go. I'll keep holding on until it works.
Thanks. And then also thanks to the participants. Full group, but effective. I think. Yeah, the stuff will go out and we'll share that quite widely. Thanks, Barry, and keep well wherever you are. And
yeah.
Go along with.
Excellent. Thanks very much for your input and participation and the questions. I'll await the emails for those that have requested feedback. And yes, stay safe, be good, head for quality. That's the main drive. And we out of here. Thanks very much.